Her car died on the loneliest stretch of highway she'd ever seen. But when a stranger pulled over, the first words out of his mouth made her blood run cold. Rachel hadn't driven this road in 15 years. Not since the night that changed everything. Not since the accident that took her sister's life and left her drowning in guilt she couldn't escape. But today, she had no choice. Her mother's voice on the phone that morning had been weak, fragile. A bad fall, the neighbor said. Maybe a broken hip. The hospital was 2 hours away, through back roads and memories Rachel had spent over a decade trying to forget. The rain started 20 miles in. First a drizzle, then a downpour that turned the windshield into a wall of water even the wipers couldn't clear. Her old Honda had been making strange noises for weeks, a grinding sound she'd been ignoring. The way she ignored most warning signs in her life. When the engine coughed and died, she wasn't even surprised. Just resigned. Of course this would happen. Of course she'd break down on this specific stretch of road, where the trees crowded too close and the cell signal disappeared into nothing. She didn't know that breaking down here, on this day, was exactly where she needed to be. Rachel sat in the driver's seat for 10 minutes, watching rain hammer the hood before she saw the headlights approaching from behind. A truck, old, dark blue, moving slowly through the storm. She tensed. Every news story she'd ever heard about women alone on empty highways flashed through her mind. But what choice did she have? No phone signal, no passing cars, just rain and gathering darkness. The truck pulled up behind her and stopped. A man got out, tall, maybe 60, wearing a worn denim jacket that was soaked through in seconds. He approached her window carefully, hands visible, non-threatening. She cracked the window an inch. "Looks like you're stuck," he called over the rain. His voice was gentle, almost sad. "I've got tools in my truck. Mind if I take a look?" Something about him felt familiar, though Rachel was certain they'd never met. Maybe it was his eyes, kind but haunted, like he'd seen too much and carried it quietly. "Okay," she said, her voice barely audible. He popped her hood and disappeared behind it. Rachel watched him through the rain-streaked windshield, his silhouette moving methodically, checking connections, testing things she didn't understand. 5 minutes later, he came to her window again. This time, his face looked different, paler, like he'd seen something that shocked him. "Ma'am," he said carefully. "When's the last time someone worked on this car?" "I don't know. Years, maybe? I just drive it." He was quiet for a long moment, rain dripping from his hair. When he finally spoke, his voice was shaking. "This car, it's a 2009 Honda Civic. Silver. License plate ending in 447. Rachel's heart stopped. "How did you know that?" "You can't see the plate from here." His face crumpled with an emotion she couldn't name. "Because 15 years ago, I was the first responder to an accident on this exact stretch of road. And this was the car." The world tilted. Rachel couldn't breathe. "That's impossible," she whispered. "This car was totaled. They told me it was totaled." "The frame was intact," he said quietly. "I remember because I wrote it in my report. Said it could be salvaged, rebuilt. I just never thought..." He trailed off, staring at the car like it was a ghost. Rachel's hands were shaking so badly she had to grip the steering wheel. "You were there that night?" He nodded, water running down his face. Rain or tears, she couldn't tell. "I pulled your sister from the passenger seat. I held her hand while we waited for the ambulance. She kept asking about you, kept saying your name." The words hit Rachel like a physical blow. For 15 years, she'd tortured herself with questions. Did Emma suffer? Was she scared? Did she call for Rachel in those final moments? "I was driving," Rachel said, her voice breaking. "It was raining, just like this. I lost control. The car spun. And Emma," she couldn't finish. Couldn't say the word she'd been choking on for 15 years. The stranger's face softened with understanding and pain. "You were 17 years old. The road was slick. The other driver ran a stop sign. I saw the skid marks, read the police report. It wasn't your fault." "Everyone said that," Rachel whispered. "But I was the one behind the wheel. I was the one who lived." He was quiet for a moment, rain pounding around them. Then he said something that made her entire world stop. "Before the ambulance came, your sister told me something. She made me promise to tell you if I ever saw you again. Rachel's breath caught. What did she say? The man's voice cracked as he spoke. She said, tell Rachel it wasn't her fault. Tell her I'm not scared. Tell her she has to forgive herself because I already forgave her. Tell her to live. Tears were streaming down Rachel's face, mixing with the rain that had started to seep through her cracked window. For 15 years, he continued, his own voice thick with emotion. I've carried those words. I looked for you, tried to find you through the accident report, but you'd moved, changed your name after you got married. I thought I'd never get the chance to keep that promise. He looked at the car, then back at her. When I saw this vehicle rebuilt from that wreck on this same stretch of road, I knew it wasn't a coincidence. I knew she was making sure I kept my word. Rachel's chest heaved with sobs she'd been holding back for over a decade. All this time, she'd been driving Emma's car, the car from that night, without even knowing it. Her husband had bought it used 3 years ago, never knowing its history. Never knowing that Rachel had been avoiding this specific car model for years because it reminded her of that night. I thought she died hating me, Rachel choked out. I thought her last moments were filled with fear and blame. The stranger shook his head firmly. Her last moments were filled with love and worry for you. She didn't want you to carry this. She wanted you to be free. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a worn leather wallet, producing a small laminated card, his incident report from that night. On the back, in his own handwriting, were Emma's final words, written so he'd never forget them. Rachel read them through tears, her sister's voice somehow echoing through a stranger's carefully preserved script. They stood in the rain together, Rachel having finally stepped out of the car, this stranger who wasn't a stranger at all, but a messenger who'd been waiting 15 years to deliver a gift of grace. I became a paramedic because of that night, he said softly. I couldn't save your sister, but I promised myself I'd save as many people as I could. I've spent 15 years trying to make peace with the ones I lose, but carrying her message for you, that was the one thing I couldn't let go. Rachel looked at him, really looked at him, and saw the weight he'd been carrying too. The guilt of not saving Emma, the responsibility of her final words. The years of searching for a girl he'd met only once, in the worst moment of both their lives. What's your name? She asked. David, he said. David Morrison. David, Rachel repeated, tasting the name of the man who'd held her sister's hand when Rachel couldn't. Thank you. Thank you for being there. Thank you for caring enough to remember. Thank you for keeping your promise. His eyes filled with tears. She was so brave, he said. Even at the end, she was trying to protect you. And in that moment, something inside Rachel broke open. Not with more pain, but with release. 15 years of guilt, of self-punishment, of refusing to forgive herself for something that was never her fault to begin with. It all came pouring out in the rain, witnessed by the one person who truly understood. She wasn't just crying for Emma anymore. She was crying for the 17-year-old girl she used to be, for all the years she'd lost to grief, for the life Emma had wanted her to live, but she'd been too afraid to claim. I'm on my way to see my mother, Rachel said, wiping her eyes. She fell. She's in the hospital, David nodded. Then we need to get you there. Let me see if I can get this car started. He went back under the hood, and this time, with a few adjustments and some quiet determination, the engine turned over. It sputtered, caught, and held. Old cars are stubborn, he said with a small smile. They break down, but they're built to keep going, just like people. Rachel didn't drive away immediately. First, she exchanged phone numbers with David. They talked for another 20 minutes in the rain, sharing stories about Emma, about the weight of survival, about the strange grace of second chances. Before she left, David said one more thing. Your sister didn't want you to just survive, Rachel. She wanted you to live. Fully, without guilt. That's how you honor her memory, by choosing joy. As Rachel drove away, watching David's truck disappear in her rearview mirror, she realized something profound. She'd been driving Emma's rebuilt car for 3 years without knowing it. And maybe that was Emma's way of saying what she couldn't say in life, that broken things can be restored. That even after tragedy, something beautiful can be built again, that the past doesn't have to stay destroyed. Her car had broken down in the rain on the exact stretch of road where everything ended 15 years ago. But it was also where everything began again. Sometimes the things we think are breaking us down are actually breaking us open to the healing we desperately need. Do you believe some meetings are destined to happen? Have you ever encountered someone who delivered a message you didn't know you'd been waiting your whole life to hear?